I am going to go ahead and record this session, and so it will get posted up. Lori will get it posted up, or Mary will get it posted up, I believe, on the Insider. And I'm not sure if it's happened yet. I know she was talking about putting together a Lee & Associates YouTube channel. Has that happened? You know, and now you're in good shape. Do you guys know? Have there been word internally to you guys that?
No. No.
Okay, so it'll be posted on the Insider then. So if you think there's somebody else that could benefit from that, then by all means, please get it to them. And I'll send it. Should be able to send a link to all of you. I think I'll have all of your email addresses when you registered for the webinar. So, but you can go to the Insider and get it there too. All right. Well, thank you guys for participating. The idea behind today's call, or the agenda, was to go over entering in a closed deal that's a referral. And I think you will find that for the most part, it's relatively straightforward. The only thing that you guys are going to be doing really a little bit differently than when you're closing or a sale is on, for the most part, it's on the very first tab of the closed deal, and I'm going to go through that in just a minute. I did want to mention that this is kind of meant to be interactive, so if you have something to say, I can't see you raise your hand or anything like that, don't do the raising hand on the GoToMeeting, because it's just too hard for me to see who's got their hand up in the view that I have. But so just go ahead and shout out any questions that you have or anything like that. Okay, and oh, Allie, you can just say it out loud, but it'll be easier if you do that than put the questions in. But I'm not sharing my screen yet. I'm going to go ahead. Now I'm sharing my screen. So it's when you post a question on the GoToMeeting, it's a little bit harder for me to see what that is because it doesn't show up right away. Okay, so again, the idea behind entering in the referrals is, one, you have a way to track that revenue, and so your agents can get paid their commission on it, but also for the corporate reporting. And under the National Corporate Reports, there is a referral report. And this is just a development site, but if I pull up this report, I entered in a closed deal this morning, which you will see will show up on the report. Again, we're in the development environment, which is why it tends to be running so much slower. So I'm just going to put today's date in here. And here's the deal that I entered in. And so you can see, and Scott, if you're on Crooks, this is, you guys were the originating office on it. And if Victoria, you're on, or someone else from the North LA office, Calabasas office was the receiving office. But this is kind of the end result, is this report that you can run, the corporate report. So you guys can see who's giving referrals, who's receiving referrals within Lee & Associates, and even outside of Lee & Associates. Okay? So let's go ahead and let's pull up the new closed deal form. And here's the closed deal wizard. Again, most of what we're going to be doing is going to be for the referral within the first tab. Okay, there are a few other things that you'll see where on the report I'll show you where they're pulling from. But for the most part, what you're going to be doing is going to be pulling right from the Enter Deal Information tab. So when you're putting this information in, if you choose referral, it is going to show up on the report, assuming that you don't mark it that you don't want it to. But it is going to show up on the report. The difference is there going to be any information on here, or is it going to be relatively blank? And so on the form, here, let's do, referral test 2. And I'm going to say referral. It switches to comp type none, project only. Side represented is one of the fields on the report. So we could just say we're representing the client or whoever it is you're representing. You're going to put that in. So let's just put seller, landlord. And if I go down now right here to referral information, this is where we're going to be pulling some data. So this part can be a little bit confusing, the referral type. There are 4 choices to choose from. And this is just a side note, everybody. If you put your mouse on the label referral type, it brings up this tooltip that tells you when to use each of those different values. For the most part, I think it's relatively self-explanatory, but if you need it, you can always pull that up. So this, again, this part, I guess, is really, to me, is probably one of the most confusing parts of it, is determining which of these you're going to use. So money received from another LEEC office, originating transaction, originating trans. So when a fee is received from a different LEEC office, okay, and that's the recipient of the deal. So basically, let me break that down for you. You send a referral to another LEEC office, and they send you a fee. Okay? This one is going to be the same thing. You send a referral, but it's to a non-LEEC office, and they send you a fee. Then you've got these other 2. You receive a referral from another LEEC office, and then you send them the fee. And then, of course, this one is the same, but you receive a referral from a non-LEEC office, and you send them a fee. Okay? So the first 2 are when you send a referral to another office. The last 2 are when you receive a referral. Okay? When you receive a referral fee from a LEEC office or a non-LEEC office. We put in here, I don't know if you guys remember, I'm sure you do, but we entered in here all of the different lien associates offices are listed in here. In addition to that, we listed, if you remember, we asked everybody, well, what are I think it was the top 10 companies that you give referrals from outside of lien associates. You send referrals to and you receive referrals from. And we entered those in, which is why you're going to see things like Avis & Young and Calco Commercial and Cassidy Turley and CBRE. This is not going to encompass all of the other companies that you might send a referral to or you receive a referral from. If it's not in here, then just leave it blank. You could choose the referral type, but then leave this blank. I'm pretty sure if you guys have some other offices, if you look in here, and there are some other offices that you do business with outside of Lien Associates, I can have those added. If you guys want to email me maybe the top 5 that you do, I'll talk to Lori. I don't think it'll be a problem to get those put in the system, into everybody's system. Okay? But just know that a lot of companies are going to be here. If you sent them in to me, they're going to be here. If you didn't send them in, well, they're not. So, okay. Any questions so far about what we're doing? Hopefully it's all relatively straightforward. Okay. And I'm going to send this to Lori as well, but I put together this kind of little cheat sheet here, which this is the report, and it shows you, I put these call outs, it shows you, or tells you rather, which field it's pulling from and under what tab within the wizard. So I can send this, I'll send this to Lori, and I think she can get that posted up under the, in the Insider as well. But this is something that I think you might benefit from, is this little kind of cheat sheet, if you will, if you're unsure. Okay, so let's say we, let's choose this, and we'll choose Arizona, and the referral date, today's date. Now, I'm going to hit continue. Yeah, guys, this is meant to be somewhat interactive, so if any of you have any questions or you want to say something, please speak up. I did want to point out that on here, there are some different places for you to put. It's going to pull data, property data, if you attach a property to your closed deal, okay? You could continue without a property if you wanted, but on the report, it's going to show some of that property data. So if the referral that you got is for, the fee that you're getting that you need to record, if you have the address of that, the agent gives that to you, I would suggest putting that in. And okay, and I'll choose that. Actually, let's choose the top one instead. More square footage. You could create a new property if you need to. Again, this part of it is really, should be, for all of you that are closing deals, this should be relatively straightforward for you. If you do have questions, please just shout them out. Now, I'm going to say this deal is for the entire property. All right. Now, on the report, there are two contacts that show up here. One is the referring broker, and the other is the receiving broker. Both of those are pulling from what you enter in here. So in this case, I'm on here because I created the record, but I also want to list myself as the referring broker. Rather than hitting the X and re-entering my name, I'm just going to click on the roll, and it gives me the pull down and lets me choose whatever I want. So in this case, I'm going to choose referring broker. I'll hit the little disc, and it puts it up above. And I used Lori last time. I'll use her again. And we'll say that she is the receiving broker on this. Right there. Both of those will show up on the report, right? Here's your referring broker, and here is your receiving broker. Okay? And at this point, let's say, I don't know, Scott, because we used your location, we'll add you as our client. Now I'm going to save and continue. I didn't select one or more important roles. Remember, whoever you list as the primary salesperson, that person automatically, their name automatically shows up on the invoice. There are some other reports that the project manager's name shows up on. These don't matter for the corporate report, the referral report. Okay? And then in terms of who the customer is, the client and the customer, that information shows up on the invoice as well. So if you leave it off, it's not that big a deal. It warns you that you missed one or more important roles, but it really isn't. It's not going to stop you from doing what you're doing. With the permissions, more often than not, you'll be able to go right past it unless there's some sort of CA agreement or something like that. Now, here's where I went in, and this is just the development site, the corporate development site. But when you go to the pull down here, all of you, well, maybe you personally don't, but somebody in your office, if it's not you, has the ability to edit this pull down. Now, if you notice, referral fee is not here. I'm going to go ahead and add it real quick because it should be there. And when I say it should be there, it's not one of the default values, but if you want to put it in, you certainly can. And I would recommend that just because that will show up on the invoice as well. And it's under fee calc terms. So here, I'm going to enter in referral fee. Paste that in. It's active. and submit. Now, I'm just going to refresh it, and voila, there's referral fee. I know there's one instance of this. I know the fee, and if you want, again, guys, hopefully this is not new to anybody on the call. I can leave that blank and just put in the total. So I know the referral was, the transaction amount was, 15,000.
Oh, come on, Keith.
Yeah? Oh.
You got to be higher than 15,000. There's no point in doing a deal that cheap.
Yeah. All right, Scott, just for you, let's put it in as 50 grand. And the agent's getting 3%. And lots of times with a referral, it very well might be just a flat fee, whatever. You guys, again, this hopefully isn't new to anybody. And you know what, Scott? Let's bump this up, because why not? All right. And you're going to pay, Scott. Just kidding. All right. Now we're going to define our splits. And up until now, though, everything that we did here, that is what shows up on the report. The rest of the information that you do here, you need to do it so you can get the invoice generated and get the deal done. But at this point, none of the other information that you're entering shows up on this report. None of it. Okay? So this is up to calculate fees. That's where the report is pulling data from. And ironically, by default, it says referral brokers up top. Remember, you guys can always change this label by clicking on the little X. Change it to whatever you want. There it goes. All right. Does anybody have any questions as of now? No?
No.
Okay. Not splitting it with any other agents. Now, I do want to point this out that when you are putting in the agent on the deal, there are some companies, and I'm only saying this because I got a call from someone, I don't remember who it was, or an email earlier in the week or the end of last week regarding the referral, that for their agents, they're on a different split plan for the referrals. They're not on the same split plan. Well, remember, you can have multiple split plans for a specific agent if you want. There's a default one when you go into their HR record and you create the HR record. There is a default split plan that you're going to put in. You designate one as a default. Okay? So right there, this is the default. It's the only plan, but it's the default. Right? This is the trigger that defaults it. But you can have, an agent can have as many split plans as you want. So if you want to put them, if they have a special plan just for referrals, you can do that. The other thing that you may want to do, if because maybe you don't do a lot of referrals, you don't want to worry about maintaining a separate split plan, you can use the fixed net split percentage or fixed net split dollar amount. You're going to use one or the other. You don't necessarily, you don't need both. You're not going to put information in both. But the way, if you put a percentage in here or you put a dollar amount in, it will pay that agent on this deal and this deal only whatever percentage or dollar amount you put in. So if you know that your agent always gets 50% of the referral fee, for example, then, and you don't want to set up a separate plan for them, you can just put your 50% in, or if it's a specific dollar amount, you can just put the dollar amount in. Remember, it's for this deal and this deal only. The fixed net split will not carry over to any other deals. Okay, so I can put in the fixed net split, I'll put 50%, and just for the sake of putting it in there. Again, you don't need a dollar amount. If you're going to put a percentage in, leave the dollar amount blank. If you put in a dollar amount, you can leave the percentage blank. If you want to do the math and figure it out, you can, but I would just do one, not both. Now save and continue. Okay? There are no net deductions. Now we're going to create our invoices. Okay, he's in, and we're going to do one invoice only. We'll create it, hit save. And here's our invoice that we just generated. Okay, so we have our referral fee, we have the square footage. We didn't put in a dollar per period, but here's our total transaction amount, the rate, and then there's our fee. And I didn't put a remittance address in, but here it is. Okay, so if we now run the report, there should be 2 transactions on there now, and there they are. Okay. So, does anybody have any questions about that? It didn't take us long at all to do. And hopefully it doesn't take you longer, much longer than that to get a closed deal entered in the system. Actually, hopefully it takes you less time than that to get it entered, assuming you have the information. If you have to hunt people down for every little piece of information, then of course it's going to take you longer. But if you have all the information, hopefully it's not taking you nearly the time it took me to enter this deal in. So,
hey Keith, what's the point of the procuring brokers? What was the thought process behind that column?
I don't know, Scott. That's a good question. I really don't know what the thought was on it, because on a referral, typically there is not a procuring broker.
Right.
Especially because we encompass the receiving broker and the referring broker. So I don't know. That's a good question. And I'll actually bring that up with Lori, because maybe it would make sense to remove it.
I would remove it and then put the comments field that was on the first page, because if they're not on the crazy drop down, like if we do like we did a deal with a residential agent referred a deal to us locally, and so I went in and put their name in the comment field, and I don't really want to add Metro Brokers to the list because we may never do another deal with them.
Right. That makes sense, Scott. But here's a question I have for you then, let's just talk about this for a minute. We don't have a tremendous amount of real estate. So do we display, if we put referral comments in here, do we display the first, I don't know, we have to see how many characters, but the first, 50 characters that fit in, or do we just make it so this expands, and the only thing is it just is going to present different, less number of records per page, depending on how many comments are entered. It'll push down the bottom row.
I think the first 25 or 50 is probably plenty.
Okay. I'll talk to Lori about that, and we'll see, because that absolutely makes sense to me, Scott. That makes sense. So well, I'll definitely, I'll bring that up with her, and we'll see what we can do. Can you guys tell me, is anybody running this referral report, off the corporate widget? And anybody, just shout it out if you are. No one is.
I have run it, but I haven't run it. I don't run it regularly, and I don't run it often.
Okay. I guess I'm a little bit, I guess, curious more than anything as to the impetus of why we added this. It doesn't seem, I mean, there are 17 of you on the call, and, you know, basically no one's running it regularly anyways. So I don't know if it was just for corporate to have, for them to see the types of referrals that are going and coming from within LEE and outside of LEE. I don't know.
I can tell you what the logic was behind creating the report. When we go to talk to Minneapolis, or we go to talk to Cincinnati about joining Lee and Associates, the first question we're asked is how much business runs through the Lee network. And there was no way previously to even guesstimate how much business there was. The problem is I don't think most of the offices, and I probably am guilty of this as well, I don't know that most of the offices are actually putting the stuff in. I was actually going to go back and pull the list of all the Lee offices I've paid this year and go back and look and see if I've got them all in the referral thing correctly.
Okay. So essentially it was added as a recruiting tool for new offices for the most part. You know, it's obviously only as accurate as the data that's put into it, and as you said, Scott, there are a lot of Lee offices that aren't putting it in, and so, or they're not putting it in such a way that the information shows up on the report. So for those of you that are relatively new to Lee or didn't know this report is here, it is here. I'd recommend that you take a look at it, even if you just want to look at your office. Before you run the report, you do have the ability to filter it. So if you want to put in that's for the agents, but if you want to put in the receiving office or the originating office, you can look and see how many referrals you sent out or how many you received in if you're entering the data. But it might not be a bad idea to take a look at that and see, just in terms of making it a good recruiting tool, which is why it was originally designed. There are some offices that aren't participating as much as others, and so the numbers are always going to be not 100%, but at least it can give a ballpark as to what, for the offices that are participating and are using it, what it give a ballpark as to, what type of deals are running through from Lee offices to other Lee offices and, from Lee offices outside of Lee and ones that come in from outside of Lee. So, all right. Are there any other questions or anything anyone would like to say or talk about?
I have a question.
Okay.
This is Allie at Lean Associates of Eastern Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
And my question is, a lot of times we will generate an invoice, and then we will need to make some edits to that invoice outside of our apps. So we'll export it as like a Word document, make those changes. And then we wondered, is there a way to, I know there isn't, but maybe an enhancement request could get put in to re-upload that invoice into our apps so we have it in the database and record of what changes happened to it? Because obviously the one you look at later will never be an accurate reflection of the invoice, the changes we made because we exported it out. If that makes sense.
So, Allie, just so I'm clear, you're saying instead of you having to go in under, for example, the Notify Others tab and upload the invoice that you printed to Word or Excel, you're saying have it automatically upload?
Yeah, where it can, sorry, I hear myself echoing at John Hickey's desk, and it's really distracting. But a way that you can upload it into the area where the invoice is generated, the tab in the deal where you create the invoice, it would be cool if there was a feature to upload that invoice there.
Gotcha.
I don't know if anyone else, sees that as a helpful thing, but I was just curious if anyone ever asked about that, or if just the best.
I have not had that request before, Allie.
Almost like an override of the one that's in our apps, because it's not the accurate one anymore.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can certainly put an enhancement request in for that. So let me just make a note of that. Changed invoice. For right now, though, Allie, and I'll put a request in for that. I mean, worst thing they'll do is say, no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But the thing that I would say is, in lieu of that for now, if you change the invoice, as you're going through the wizard, you do have the Notify Others tab. I mean, obviously, when you're outside the deal, you can go to the notes files of the deal and upload it there. But as part of the wizard, you do have the Notify Others that lets you upload the document. So maybe if you do change the invoice, then upload the changed invoice in right here. As you're going through the wizard, you can put in the new, the updated invoice. So at least you have a record of it in the file cabinet. So it's not going to show up under the invoices section here, but it will show up under the file cabinet. And maybe, I'm just thinking out loud, but maybe we can do something where if you do upload it into the file cabinet and you choose a certain file type, for example, and I'm just thinking out loud, I don't even know if they could do this, but if you choose a file type, maybe we name one invoice or something, that when you go to the invoices, it automatically shows up. The little folder shows up under the print button. So like a shortcut to it. I don't know, something like that might be kind of cool.
And that is a good idea. And again, I don't know if anyone else would find that helpful, but I know some of the guys here had mentioned, the one that's in RE apps is never going to be accurate if you export it out and make just, subtle changes to things. It would just be nice as our database, if you will, to have everything, mirror, reflect accurately, what they look like after they're exported out. So I wanted to ask to see if that was possible, or just general feedback on if that's a good idea or not. So.
Yeah, I haven't had a request. I will put in an enhancement request in for that, but I would say, like for now, in lieu of that, like I said, go ahead and I would put in the Notify Others. I mean, have a way to save that new invoice into the deal, whether you do it from here or you do it from the notes files when the deal is done, right? You do have a way of doing that, which will show up on the closed deal if you have the widget turned on, right? Your notes files widget turned on, it will show up there. So it's not nearly as good as what you're suggesting, Allie. I'm not even trying to say that it is, but at least you have some sort of workaround.
Yeah.
In the meantime, if you will. But one of the things that I would want to say is, if you guys are always changing the invoice, and I don't know if it's the same changes every time, if it is, then we should build you an invoice that has the changes that you want on it. So when you do generate it, you don't have to make any changes.
Yeah.
You know,
We just have some guys who like to make little tweaks, like if they feel like there's some redundancy with, saying, I don't know, for example, having that little details area under the billing schedule. If they don't have anything in there, they're like, well, let's just remove it. They have like little things like that they like to tweak to the invoices to clean them up.
Right.
But it's case by case, so it's not like we could just build an invoice that appeals to everyone. You know what I'm saying? So our way is that we export it out. We kind of know which agent likes what, and we export it out. We make those changes, and we save it on our server. It would just be cool for them, to have a feature where they can upload the invoice back into our apps and know that that's the one across the board that is correct.
Right. And you're okay. And they can upload it back into here. The difference is it's not going to show up under the invoices section. They put it under the note file. Yeah. But if you make sure that they have their widget turned on, at least they'll be able to see it right away and can click on it and open it up. So they do have the ability to have a copy of it in the deal. But I understand what you're saying. I absolutely understand it. And I don't know, do your agents have the ability, Allie, security-wise, to get into the closed deal and go to the invoices and see it there?
Well, like, I don't know, actually. I'd have to go look. I feel like they may not. But they'll ask me, like, hey, can you pull this up? I want to look at it. And I'll pull it up, and they'll be like, well, that's not right. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's right, because we made changes to it. And then we'll go to our S-Drive. So there's situations like that where there can be confusion. And we were just looking for, a way to avoid that. So. Okay.
Understood. I would say for now, Allie, go ahead and upload it, though, and maybe add a file type. You have the ability to do that. Add a file type.
Got it.
That says the attachment type that says invoice or updated invoice or something of that nature.
Yep.
So when they open up the deal, because if they don't have access to the invoice section, which I'm assuming they don't, make sure the widget's turned on for them. At least they'll see it when they open up the deal without having to click anywhere or anything. They'll just see it right on the widget.
All right, thank you.
So, yep. All right. Gene, I don't know if you still have a question or not. I see next to your name there's a question mark, but when I click on the question mark, no questions opening. So did you have a question? Gene Berry? Okay, I guess not. All right. Any other questions?
I had a question about the widget for the National Corporate Reports, but you don't have to. It doesn't need to be part of this call. It's up to you, Keith.
Okay, I mean, it's fine with me. Do you think anyone else might benefit from the answer?
Well, I was looking at I was just pulling the drop down for the receiving offices, and there's a couple of duplicates, and then there's a couple of them there's one that says black hole.
Black hole? Huh.
What is
that?
that?
I see that. Interesting. I don't know where that came from. There are two of them.
Anyway.
Okay. I'll have to I'll check that out. I don't know why those are there like that.
And
or who entered them in. What's that?
It kind of appears to me that maybe the logic for originating and the logic for receiving is reversed. Because if you go receiving office Atlanta, it's all deals that we sent, not even though we were the ones that originated them. It looks like the logic somehow got flipped.
Okay, or the label, anyways, right?
Yeah, something.
Yeah. I'll check it out. Thank you. Good find.
Okay.
I'm just making a note of that. All right. All right. Any other questions? Oh. Gene, you're unmuted, Gene, if you still had a question. Okay. All right. Well, if there is nothing else, thank you all very much for participating. I do appreciate it, and hopefully you found this beneficial. If you think anyone else in your office will find it beneficial, then you know, have them take a look at the video. I will send, and actually, let me ask you, do any of you, do you guys want this? Should I bother sending this to Lori, or this little cheat sheet? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'll send it to her and ask her to post it up. I can clean it up a little bit too, so it's maybe not as busy. But I'll go ahead and send this over to her as well, and so at least you guys can have access to it.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and a good rest of your week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.